one of the lovely things about self-writing apps and self-writing internet is that people don't have to buy into the underlying platform to use it, right? I mean, you just go to a URL, like it'll be caffeine.ai, and you interact with AI to create the web applications that you want. And, you know, for the vast majority of the world outside of crypto, it's not a tribal, they don't think tribally. They're just going to look at the functionality.
First of all, Dominic, thanks for taking the time to give me a little bit of an update on ICP. A lot time has passed, I think, over this last year. So I thought by opening a question would be like just asking you what's been most exciting for you recently in the evolution of internet computer? What's energizing you?
Of course, the answer is AI.
AI.
Probably no surprises there. But I think it's important. We'll probably spend a lot of time talking about AI, but it's important to say that, you know, there's a big team of people, a big technical team working on improving ICP all the time. And in the last year, there have been a number of huge advancements. And yeah, we've reduced the latency of the network by half. So update transactions go through in half, become finalized in half the time. And, you know, when you've got a highly optimized network like internet computer, achieving a 50% reduction in latency is big job. So there's a lot of work going on, as always, behind the scenes at DFINITY to improve ICP, and there've been, you know, really important gains made in the last year. But in terms of where the market's at and where we're sort of directing the network, AI is where it's at right now.
So self-writing, does this form part of AI?
Absolutely. So, you know, I think just under a year ago, yeah, the internet computer became the first blockchain to actually run AI models as smart contracts, like run models on chain through consensus. And actually, to date, we remain the only blockchain that's actually running AI truly on chain. There's a lot of people talking about on-chain AIs, but they don't mean on-chain in the same way. What they mean is that they've created an AI on Amazon Web Services typically, and they've given it a token that's on a blockchain somewhere. And they say the AI is on-chain because it's got a token. You know, at DFINITY, we have a different view on what the role blockchain should play in the world. And you know, as I say, just under a year ago, we demonstrated the first AI model running as a smart contract on the blockchain itself. And we've continued pushing the boundaries there. So it's been possible to run more and more powerful AI models on chain. People are currently running cut down versions of DeepSeek. And you know, recently we also introduced something called AI workers. And these are like, these run on specialized nodes in the network, and they can't maintain state, but it means the network can run much bigger models. So you know, today it's possible to write smart contracts on the internet computer and use an API where you simply go, you know, lm.prompt, pass the a bit of text identifying the model you want to send the prompt to, and that'll actually, that inference will run on the network itself.
So self-writing basically means that you can prompt and the AI to create me something and it will do it for you?
No, self-writing is another step. So there are two dimensions to AI in the context of Web3 and the internet computer and so on. One is that we want to enable people to run and query decentralized AIs that run on the network in the mode of smart contracts. And that was the first challenge that we addressed. Self-writing is a new paradigm that's related to vibe coding. So already today, more than 25% of the software being written in the world is being written by AI, not humans. And vibe coding has become this absolutely huge movement, and probably in 2 or 3 years' time, AI is going to be writing 90% or more of the software that's being created in the world. So self-writing goes beyond vibe coding, and it enables non-technical users to create web applications just by interacting with AI over chat. And they don't have to, set up accounts on traditional IT, although that's possible too within the paradigm. They don't have to write software themselves. They just have to describe what they want over chat to AI, and they get a URL where their application is. And that application could be absolutely anything. For example, if you're a retail user, you might say to the AI, please create a custom Google Photos. And you might say, I want to be able to, share this Google Photos, my custom Google Photos with my family. I want family members to be able to add, emojis, emoji reactions to photos. I want family members to be able to comment on photos, things like that. And you'd essentially create personalized social media for your family that's hyper local. That might be something retail would do. On the other hand, enterprise might say something like, hey, I want to create this CRM functionality. And in every case, people are getting just simply stupendous gains. Today retail has absolutely no chance of creating their own personalized hyperlocal social media, but this is going to be huge. Like self-writing makes that possible. If you look at the enterprise space, oftentimes you get people stuck in departments desperate for some, enterprise functionality like CRM, which stands for customer relationship management. But it's just very difficult to get it. Today you'd probably have to go to your CFO and persuade them to give you a budget. Then you'd have to run a tendering process, probably end up choosing Salesforce anyway. Then you've got to hire some consultants, organize some talking shops, 12 plus months later, and millions of dollars later, you might have the CRM functionality that you want. With self-writing apps, you'll just be able to interact with AI to create the CRM functionality you want, obviously at a tiny fraction of the cost and time involved in doing it the way you do today, and then your annual hosting costs are going to be very small too. So self-writing is going to completely change our relationship with tech. It's going to democratize and decentralize access, and enable people who already can access tech to be far more agile and get what they need at far lower cost. So for us, blockchain is the future tech stack. Centralized tech stack is things like, Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, traditional platform software like, databases and web servers and all the kind of code and coding platforms that are associated with that. We believe that blockchain is the future tech stack because, for example, when you host code on a blockchain, it's tamper-proof, doesn't need protecting by traditional cybersecurity. It's unstoppable within the fault bounds of the network. The code is more abstract, so it can be more productive to produce and things like that. And we believe that it's self-writing that's going to bring about this change where blockchain becomes the new tech stack. Because, today, if you want to persuade, an engineer, hey, start building your web apps on the blockchain, I mean, properly on the blockchain, not in the sense many people use, which is on Amazon Web Services with a token on the blockchain. I'm talking about building web apps on the blockchain, so entirely hosted from the blockchain. The user experience comes from the blockchain, all the data lives on the blockchain, all the data processing is occurring on the blockchain. And that's something the internet computer is capable of. If you go to traditional devs today and say, hey, why don't you start building all your stuff on the blockchain, even if they can see that there are big advantages, in the end, they'll have a tendency to choose the IT stacks they've already invested years of their lives learning. So, if someone's an Amazon Web Services guy and they spent years learning how to use all the tooling and platform components there, they don't want to hear there's a better tech stack because they've already invested a large part of their life learning how to use this. But self-writing is a generational change, because in the future, retail and business aren't going to go to developers who choose an IT stack. In the future, retail and business are going to go to self-writing apps, platforms. And they're going to choose the best self-writing app platform, and they won't really care what the underlying stack is. And the self-writing apps platforms will be designed to deliver the best results to the self-writing app platform, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a generational change, and we think this is what's going to lead to massive adoption of Internet Computer Protocol for use creating stacks.
And do you foresee competition with other smart chain blockchains, or is this like an innovation that's happening on ICP at the moment?
Well, look, I mean, we believe in a world computer vision where the world computer isn't just one network. The world computer is the amalgamation of all blockchains that can host data and logic. So, the internet computer has this capability called chain key and can create, for example, transactions on other blockchains without having a private key. So it's already being used, for example, as a layer 2 for Bitcoin. And you've probably seen like the Bitcoin NFT and Runes platforms running on the internet computer very successfully already. And chain key capabilities are always being improved. And, code on the internet computer can call into code on other blockchains. So in that sense, we believe the world computer, that self-writing apps are going to be built on the world computer generally. However, it's also true that, there aren't any other blockchains currently that can even remotely match the technical capabilities of the internet computer. So there are no other blockchains in existence today that can host web apps. In fact, it's the case that there are no other blockchains in existence today that can host a single phone photo. So obviously, if you wanted to create a custom Google, custom Google Photos using self-writing paradigm, you couldn't do it on a traditional blockchain because, number one, they can't serve user experiences. The smart contracts can't pay for their own computation using reverse gas. You have to craft each transaction manually using a browser extension wallet typically. And even if all those problems are addressed, they also, can't really practically store any significant amount of data or perform any significant amount of computation. So, they're better suited just for DeFi at the moment. But, over time, their capabilities might improve. It is also true that at the moment, there is a very stark difference between the internet computer on one hand and, the rest of the pack, which is difficult. I think, many of your viewers will find that difficult to grasp because, of course, you keep seeing, blockchains like Solana and Sui and Avalanche and so on, advertising how they're incredibly performant and scalable. The truth is, that's not the case when you put them next to the internet computer. So the cost of storage on these blockchains is tens of thousands of times higher than it is on the internet computer. And they don't have smart contracts that are capable of processing, many gigabytes of data, and they don't have and their smart contracts also can't process HTTP and serve user experiences into browsers. So for the moment, it's true that only the internet computer is capable of hosting web apps written by AI. But nonetheless, in the more we see this more generally, and we think that the self-writing internet, involves AI creating web applications on the world computer more generally, and that's the amalgamation of all blockchains. And internet computer can integrate with these other blockchains, and potentially, if if a user wants to interact with meme coins or create an application that interacts with meme coins, the AI might build the bulk of the application on the internet computer, but also use the internet computer's chain key technology to interact directly with Solana and Pump Fund or something like that.
So basically, from what I understand, self-writing is a bit like you're bypassing the middleman. And the middleman is all the developers that you'd need to go through to build you whatever application you might want.
I think that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, I mean, this is why it's so important to us. Like, it's funny when you look at the internet computer, its capabilities have advanced so far beyond traditional blockchains. But it's an early crypto project, and a lot of the thinking that informed design choices behind the internet computer are sort of evolutions of thinking that Satoshi began in his early Bitcoin work. And one of the key tenets of Satoshi's thinking was that we must remove intermediaries to give people freedom. And that's exactly what AI and the self-writing internet and self-writing apps generally enable. Now, anybody in the world will be able to interact with AI to create online functionality, which is sovereign to them. And if as long as it's being built on the world computer, can incorporate Web3 functionality like tokens, as well as decentralized AI. So this is really like, we're at an inflection point here. Like, everything that we think we know about tech is going to change dramatically in the next few years. And one of the many changes that AI will bring about is that you can create online functionality very easily and update it in production. This is very important, just by interacting with AI. So there's a project called caffeine.ai, just caffeine. And this will launch hopefully imminently. There's a huge amount of work going on behind the scenes with this thing, and you can interact with caffeine, and it will just give you a URL, and that you get, you click on that URL, and there's your app that you described. Not only that, you can continue interacting with caffeine to evolve that app in production, adding new functionality. You don't have to worry about your data being lost or anything like that. And of course, that URL is an internet computer URL.
It's hard to imagine how much can come out of this breakthrough, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, this is really like, we've been through this kind of, I don't know, era in Web3 where we sort of just chased speculative gold, and we've chased it, and we sort of ended at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, I say that, like, I got into crypto substantially more than a decade ago. And, I got into crypto to do big things. And, I'd done some pretty big things before, and, I'm strong technically and so on. And I didn't get in, like, fun as NFTs are and fun as meme coins are, like, they have their place. But like, this isn't what crypto's trying to do. Like, it started with Satoshi's vision of creating magic internet money that you could hold yourself directly in self-custody. And that would, be used online for things like tips and things like that. We sort of like retraced really, like, people now, when they think about Bitcoin, they think about the Bitcoin ETF. Like, putting loads of Bitcoin in an ETF doesn't really advance crypto. Like, crypto advances by Bitcoin being in people's hands and being used for, practical tasks like tipping and payments and all that kind of stuff. So, we ended up in this place where I think it's kind of hard. It's become very hard for retail and also even just, excuse me, funds that invest into crypto to really understand what it's all about. We've just ended up chasing speculation. And I understand that, within speculation, there can be gold. And, there's been huge, people generated huge fortunes from commissions on sales of NFTs, like billions of dollars, like the platforms that sold NFTs. It's incredible. Similarly, people have generated huge funds from the commissions on meme coins. But it's a kind of zero-sum game, right? Like NFT investors got sucked into that kind of highly speculative market and kind of lost their shirts, and the money went to the people running the platforms. And that's also the case with, generally speaking, with meme coins. Crypto isn't about zero-sum games. Crypto is about transformative technology that creates value. And I think finally we're getting to a place with AI where crypto can really show the power of what it can do. The beautiful thing for the internet computer is, it's been kind of, I think a lot of people, for one reason or another, to do with the launch, lost sight of the internet computer. And we all know the history and the difficult history when it launched and the price went to 500. And thanks to some mysterious goings on FTX, and there's a whole story behind that. And then a lot of people bought in, early on and ended up losing all their money because the price dropped precipitously and so on, which was a shame. And people should go and, research that for themselves if they're interested in how that happened. But for whatever reason, I think people lost sight of the internet computer. Internet computer, ICP, is backed by the largest sustained R&D operation in crypto, hands down. Like if you want to, probably more PhDs working on the internet computer than the rest of it, than in all the other crypto projects combined. And they never stopped working. We never stopped improving the core protocol. And I think that, the number of internet computer devs has been growing, and people are always surprised by that. Like why are there so many developers working on this network? But still the pool of the total pool of crypto developers is very small. It's very small. In fact, the total pool, it's like, I forget what it is. It's like 25, 30,000 people. It's tiny. Total pool of full stack developers is about 15 million, right? Which seems like, well, that's a lot better, obviously.
Yeah.
But think about this, like self-writing internet makes everyone with a smartphone a developer and potential owner of web apps and online functionality. And there are 5 billion people who will own smartphones by the end of this year. So we're going from 25, 30,000 crypto devs to that coveted 15 million full stack developer pool that we'd love to pull into Web3, to potentially bringing in everyone who can speak in whatever the natural language is to AI to create web apps and online functionality. And I think it's going to be absolutely transformative for the Web3 industry. It's exactly what crypto is about. It gets rid of the middleman. It gives people the power to create themselves independently of requiring any permission. And you can think about all these, you're a retail user, create online functionality. You're an enterprise, be more agile, cut costs. If you're just a lone engineer, be a team. If you're an entrepreneur, all of a sudden you can build without raising venture capital, because now all you need to do is just talk to the AI. So for us, it's like, self-writing apps and self-writing internet are just the logical extension of vibe coding. And I think everyone now is in agreement this is where it's going. Full vibe coding is another way of thinking about it. And for a bunch of reasons, blockchain can provide a much better IT stack for AI to build on. So with respect to the internet computer and ICP generally, the network hosts very, very abstracted backend logic. And it gets rid of a lot of the complexities that you have with things like databases, because it has this technology where data exists inside the logical abstractions of the code. So it's called orthogonal persistence. So on the internet computer, one of the greatest and most important innovations that it's brought into being is this thing where the logic and data of applications become one. And for example, this makes it much easier for AI to code really complex backend logic. And there are things that we've talked about in crypto before, like, formal verification and things like that. Well, it turns out that these kinds of techniques can make it much safer for AI to build and modify, web applications in production. So when you go to the Web2 sort of sector and you look at some of these vibe coding platforms that are moving in the direction of full self-writing, I mean, Replic's a good example. They can create wonderful front-end experiences, but those wonderful front-end experiences that you see in Replit, they're just coming from Claude Sonnet 3.7, right? That's a solved problem. You can create really compelling front-end experiences. The challenge is what happens on the back end. Can you create complicated back-end logic? Can you upgrade complicated back-end logic in production without losing data? Can you guarantee that when the AI upgrades your back-end logic, that no data will be lost? Can you guarantee the AI won't make a mistake that leads to a cyber attack succeeding and your data being exfiltrated or a ransomware being installed? Well, guess what? On blockchain, you don't need traditional cybersecurity. It's your code is tamper-proof and unstoppable. So it turns out that blockchain is the ideal back-end stack for AI to build on. And remember that the world, the users of self-writing applications and self-writing internet, all they care about is what self-writing application is going to give them the best results. They don't care about the back-end stack. They certainly don't want to know the details. And it turns out that blockchain can, by providing a kind of IT stack that's idealized for AI building solo, you can force multiply the capabilities of the AI as a sort of solo engineer. And this is why we think that we're kind of at an inflection point in Web3. And this time next year, it's all going to be about self-writing internet and people creating their own functionality on the world computer. But it's not just going to be DeFi and simple things like meme coins and NFTs. It's going to be fully fledged, sophisticated web applications, like the examples I gave. Create a custom Google Photos for my family, like personalized and hyperlocal social media, or in the enterprise space, create this CRM for me. And it's going to be so quick. Like we got it at the moment. We think we can get the latency between providing instructions to AI and the updates actually being visible on the web application's URL. We can get it down to 20 seconds. And you contrast that, for example, to like the Web2 apps that are moving in the direction of self-writing, like Replit. Typically takes about 10 minutes to build an application, and updating it is an absolute nightmare. Just very, very difficult to get the results that you actually want. And it's dangerous, of course. If you've got complex backend functionality, you're using it, and this app's being used in production, and you give an instruction to the AI to update it, you can lose data. So these are things that the special features of the blockchain internet computer environment help fix.
It sounds very, very interesting. Okay, so last time we chatted, you mentioned that ICP don't do much for marketing, but do you think that there are like maybe clever ways that you can push the name in industry that, let's say, will definitely not know who ICP is?
Sure. So look, it's a really important question because just out of pure necessity, DFINITY has had to, direct most of its funds towards R&D. And many people have said, like, why don't you do all this kind of like KOL marketing and paying for placement and, big crypto publications and so on. And, we do some marketing and we do some PR, and we did it. We ran a great World Computer Day event at Davos, the WEF this year. It was tremendously successful, but it's true that, we spend most of our money on, the vast majority of our money on R&D. So I think, with respect to however caffeine is pursued, as it's commercialized, of course, there's going to be marketing to get people using it. But one of the lovely things about self-writing apps and self-writing internet is that people don't have to buy into the underlying platform to use it, right? I mean, you just go to a URL, like it'll be caffeine.ai, and you interact with AI to create the web applications that you want. And, for the vast majority of the world outside of crypto, it's not a tribal, they don't think tribally. They're just going to look at the functionality. So it's certainly the case, in caffeine, you interact with it, and then when it's got an update ready for you, it just says, like, here's your internet computer URL, secure, sovereign, updatable, right? And you click on the URL, and there it is in your browser tab, and you can interact with it, and you can go back to the chat and say, can you change this, and so on. And it'll update it for you and improve it for you as you instruct it to. So we do mention, when it's writing software, currently it says, writing the ICP software that powers your app. So it's there, but we feel like one of the things that we always felt this, like, one of the things that's holding Web3 back is everything is, number one, tribal, and number two, speculation driven. And it should be utility driven.
Yeah.
Which is, I mentioned, like, I feel sad in a way, all that Bitcoin's in an ETF. Like, is it just about the price of Bitcoin, or is it about what the utility that Bitcoin gives to the world? And I believe Bitcoin provides a lot of utility, and I believe in the original vision of Satoshi and so on. So I'd like to see Bitcoin being used in the world in practical ways. So, today the Web3 ecosystem is very tribal. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. People see token prices and assume that reflects the utility. Well, just look at how some of these token prices move by so much suddenly, and I can tell you sometimes that's like Middle Eastern hedge funds and things like that behind them. It's not necessarily a reflection of what's really going on with the ecosystem and the technology and the team working on it and adoption and things like that. And similarly, you look at a lot of blockchains and you see they've got these, like, shiny projects building on them. Actually what's really happened is, companies behind those projects have used their treasurers to pay people to build these things on those blockchains. And other times you'll hear a big brassy announcement about how some big corporation or government has chosen some blockchain or another to build on. Well, guess what? They didn't just choose. Oftentimes they're being paid. Now, it's like a reversal. Like, the customer is really, if you like, the blockchain, because, the people building on the blockchain are being paid to build on that blockchain by the blockchains. The company by the blockchain, right? So, but it's presented to the world as, this big organization has chosen to build this thing on the blockchain. It's just rubbish, really. And this is reminiscent of .com. Like, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and these projects worked out that retail, don't understand all these tricks, and a lot of even high net worths and so on, and funds don't understand these tricks. So they just look at these blockchains, think, well, there's a lot going on. Look at all those people building all these interesting projects on it. The reality is they haven't chosen that blockchain. They've been paid to build that, right? And then, you know, developers are incredibly partisan and tribal, and that's because they've been given tokens and paid. And this is the problem. This is, you know, that tribalism and the fakery and the decentralization theater, you know, and the speculation and just the focus on token price. That's what, you know, has taken Web3 to this, I believe, position, compared to, you know, the heydays of, like, you know, 2017 through to like 21, before it began to unravel in 22. So, you know, I think the important thing for Web3 is that it can produce, and provide functionality that people adopt en masse without having any kind of an allegiance to this blockchain or that blockchain or this token or that token. Now, we do believe people will have, you know, what's the word? You know, will develop affinities to one self-running app platform or another, but it's just going to be based on, like, I'm talking to this AI and it's giving me a URL. Oh, that's great. Now I want to update the functionality of that URL. I want to keep on talking. And, you know, if you keep on talking and the functionality updates in the way you want it to, and it, you know, you never get hacked and you never lose any data and all those other things, then people are going to choose that self-running app platform. They're not going to care what kind of blockchain within the world computer that self-running application is running on. So that's our vision. You know, our vision is very much to finally connect the dots and, you know, finally bring Web3 home with mass market functionality that literally everyone wants across verticals, that doesn't depend upon people wanting to speculate on a token. Now, it's also true, of course, that on the internet computer, the ICP token is the source of these things called cycles, which is roughly analogous to, you know, gas on Ethereum and other blockchains. Albeit there's a reverse gas model, so the software hosted by the network pays for its own computation, and you sort of charge the software up with cycles. But you know, the more cycles that are being burned, effectively the more ICP that's being burned. And you know, last year actually ICP went deflationary a few times because of some of these, like, blockchains on blockchains that were using proof of work that were being built on the internet computer. But I think AI is where the real ICP burn is going to come from. So, you know, people who you know, are interested in the internet computer, tokenomics and token economy, it's all going to be there, right? But the people using the functionality shouldn't have to know anything about tokens. Like, they might want to. They might describe to they might go to the AI wanting to build some kind of multi-chain app that custodies tokens and things like that. That's fine. But the point of contact for people, you know, using self-running applications is the self-running application platform. And they don't really care about the underlying stack, and they shouldn't have to. They're going to choose based upon what you know, the value that particular self-running apps platform gives them. And within, you know, in that context, you know, Web3 is going to be competing against Web2. So we have to make sure that self-running apps platforms that are deploying to the world computer provide value that, you know, self-running apps platforms that are deployed to Web2, like Amazon Web Services and so on, can't provide. And, you know, I'm pleased to say that we're finding that you can deliver absolutely enormous value. You can build faster, so people can update their applications at web speed. You can create far more complex backend logic, so you can create much more sophisticated apps. You can update them in production because, you know, various technologies involved in the internet computer stack, in particular, can guarantee that an upgrade doesn't lose data, which is a really seminal, huge advance for computer science generally. But you know, I think it's time for, like, you know, Web3 to grow up and compete as a stack outside of the realm of tribalism, narratives created by KOLs, speculation, and so on, and actually compete purely on the basis of the utility that it can provide the world. So people choose it just for the utility, without there being a token or other speculative instrument in sight. And that's how you get billions of people onto blockchain using it nonstop every day.
Yes. So from listening to you, what I'm noticing a little bit now is that these blockchains with smart contract options, if you're Solana, then you're, let's say, the go-to for memes. Like, it feels like that's how they position themselves. If you want to meme yourself, go there. But now, after speaking with you, it's ICP is more about self-writing. Like, that's something that you think that is really important moving on in the future, and ICP are going to be really narrowing down on delivering a very good self-writing script, basically.
Yeah, look, I think the way to understand it is, we always believed that the world's future IT stack was blockchain, and that people will increasingly build on the world computer. And our mission has always been to make that happen. And within that context, of course, we started working on an AI more than a year ago, making sure that AI could run well on the network too. Because if you really want to provide the world with a real world computer, then obviously you have to be able to run AI models on the world computer. So that was a challenge we solved. And then we saw that AI was really going to change how the world thinks about compute stacks. Like today, when you're thinking about a compute stack, you think about Amazon Web Services and all the kind of components like S3 and the language stack you're writing with, probably Node.js, and so on. That's how you think about it. If you want some online functionality, you want to create or own it, you go to a developer and they say, yeah, I'm going to build this on Amazon with Node, something like that, right? The seismic shift, like the tectonic that's occurred, like the tectonic plates of tech are moving, and we're moving to a different paradigm, where instead of going to a developer and asking them to create something for you, you're just going to talk to an AI.
That's crazy.
And the AI is just going to give you a URL, and you can even use that URL in practice, in production, and keep on talking to the AI to evolve and improve and add more functionality. And all of a sudden,
caffeine.
Yeah, so caffeines but I think there's already community members who are building their own versions of caffeine. I mean, we're putting a lot of effort into caffeine, but caffeine is only part of the equation. We've been adding functionality to ICP and ICP frameworks like Motoko to address challenges related to this new self-writing paradigm. For example, even though AI is very powerful in this new paradigm, or at least our version of it, you're chatting with the AI and it's coding incredibly fast, and then seconds later you're getting the updated functionality on your URL. So, which of course is running off the Internet Computer Network. And the more advanced AI gets, the further we're going to push it, and the more sophisticated our web applications are going to get. What that means, though, is AI is not infallible, right? I mean, it's incredibly powerful, but it can hallucinate and make mistakes. So, craft apps, as they're now being called, like stuff that's built by humans, right? A web application built by a human is a craft app now. Those things are supported by technical teams. Like the update cycle is very slow. Like people work together and run tests and develop things over, test it, credit release, test it in test environment, push it to a beta. There's a security team, there's experts, there's a database administrator, there's all these different people with backups being taken. Like the self-writing paradigm is very different. Like, a non-technical user is interacting with AI in real time, and that AI is updating the online functionality in real time. There's no one to hold their hand if something goes wrong. There is no technical team. And instead of updates being made every month or something, they're being made every few seconds. It's a totally different paradigm. Yeah. So we, have been leveraging key aspects of blockchain, or at least the internet computer incarnation of blockchain, to address some of these very specific challenges, such as imagine, you created like an online community and you've got like tens of thousands of users and you're a non-technical person. So there's blogging, there's a photo gallery, there's a forum, there's classify, I don't know, whatever it is.
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, photo feed, you've just been, making this like highly customized, personalized, hyperlocal social media for this community that you have. And it's all going well. And you've done it just by talking to AI. But what would happen if you spoke to AI and it updated your web application in a way that caused some data to be lost? Like, who are you going to turn to?
Exactly.
Right? Because there's no intermediary, there's no developer, it's just you and the technology now. So the technology needs to provide you with guarantees. And for example, one of the really important guarantees is that when updates are made, no data is inadvertently lost when it's migrated. Because when you change the logic of a web application, you have to migrate the data. And you need a guarantee that that migration won't inadvertently miss something, and all of a sudden you're going to find that you've lost some really important data. So that's an example of a really important guarantee that ICP solves for. Actually, it's very interesting that when you upgrade a Motoko smart contract now, you have to specify migration, some migration logic, and the ICP platform will actually look inside the garbage collector of the Motoko based app and check that none of the data that's currently being referenced is dropped once the migration's performed. So that's the kind of real hardcore low-level stuff that DFINITY is really, really good at doing. Of course, other important challenges that are addressed are more general, like security. Like, it can't be the case that you've got AI building a self-running app and it does something that results in a security hole appearing, and on traditional tech, of course, that would result in data exfiltration or ransomware on a blockchain.
Yes,
That'd be
the
something
stakes
else.
are much higher, is what you're saying.
Totally, yeah. You need, like, you can't entirely trust AI. Like, no matter how powerful AI gets, because of the way that we in the self-writing paradigm, you're just talking to the AI and it's updating these web apps at chat speed. It's inevitable mistakes were made, inevitable. And that's okay. Like, if a mistake happens, you can correct it. But what's not okay, obviously, for example, is that the AI, the update actually loses data. Or that, the AI makes an update that results in a cyber attack.
Yeah.
So these are really, really the kind of big challenges that we can address in a unique way on world computer platforms.
Very interesting. And basically I have 1, 2, 3 questions, so I'm just gonna bunch them in.
Sure.
So the large language model that ICP have chosen to adopt, is it just GPT? Is it DeepSeek? Is it Grok? Is it whoever, like, or is it playing around with whichever one they want?
Well,
yeah. And
so yeah, okay. I'll answer now. Oh, far away. So, the internet computer allows you to run AI models as smart contracts. And those ones can update state and stuff like that. At the moment, you can only run a very limited DeepSeek in that mode. Now we've got something called AI workers, which is a new development, which can't update state, but can be run in a trustless way. I'm not even sure what model is, either Llama or DeepSeek. With respect to Caffeine, which doesn't have to run the models on the network, although it's obviously preferable. I can't say too much at this stage, but we've got an AI team at DFINITY. We're using multiple models. So when you create a self-writing app, there are actually multiple models involved. At the moment, we are using a Sonnet for the front end. We'd like to fully decentralize, but at the moment, Sonnet is able to, Claude Sonnet 3.7 is able to create better front-end user experiences than any other model. But the back-end stuff is all custom models. that are fine-tuned on Motoko and the internet computer environment and stuff. So you could imagine pretty much that there's some models creating all the blockchain backend logic, right? And then that creates like an API, and then you've got like Sonnet that's building a front end on the API. But that front end, of course, is stored on the blockchain. It's served from by internet computer smart contracts too. But that's currently how it works. But I think you can imagine, how we think. Long term, we'd like to have the AI that's creating the self-writing apps running fully on the internet computer, and that's probably what almost people assume when they hear the word self-writing internet. That eventually the internet's going to incorporate AI that's going to enable you to create functionality that's resident on the internet. In a sense, like, in the future, people are going to talk to the internet, telling the internet what online functionality they want, and it's going to materialize. That's the revolution.
Yeah, on some small level, it's already happening. Like, yeah, you can just ask GPT, make me a PDF after what we've spoken
Totally,
about.
yeah.
I find it useful, So I read something about, I read two things actually, about computer hardware and node machines. So basically you have made software, and now out of that software, I'm thinking some hardware is going to come into the mix. And also I read something about this idea that ICP can trustlessly bind to other blockchains using key cryptography.
Yeah, that's right. So, we're an early crypto project, so we perhaps in some ways are more ideological than modern blockchains. So, a lot of like the blockchains you hear a lot about today, they run on cloud, right?
Yes.
So, the idea is that if you're going to build a Web3 application, you build that on Amazon, and that's not decentralized at all.
Exactly.
But then you keep a token on the blockchain, and that blockchain is decentralized in the sense there are multiple nodes, but oftentimes most of those nodes are running on cloud services, big tech cloud services. So really it's a kind of like, it's not really Web3 in my view, it's kind of Web 2.5 or something like that. And Web3 has to be more than just tokens, right?
Exactly.
So the internet computer is more like Bitcoin. It runs on dedicated sovereign hardware. And there's a community of like, I don't know, 130 plus companies and individuals worldwide that run node machines at scale. And a node machine costs about 20 grand to build. There are like public specs you need to build them to for technical reasons. Because when these node machines are combined to replicate some subset of the smart contracts in something called a subnet, if you haven't built your machine to the same standard as everybody else in the subnet, you could fall behind, and the network will think your machine's faulty, and it will slash it basically.
Wow.
So when you want to have node, you want to own some node machines that participate in the network, you need to make sure that they've been built to this public spec so they don't fall behind and get slashed. The thing we're moving towards now is creating some new specs for nodes that are specialized for running AI, and we haven't finalized those. There's already an experimental one which is running these AI workers I mentioned, but there's a lot of work because as soon as you get into the realm of AI, hardware starts getting expensive. So that's what's happening there. There will eventually be some new proposed specs for node machines optimized for AI, and then that has to go through a community process. And then this thing called the network nervous system, which is the digital governance system, where the network has to sort of vote on it and adopt it. And then people will start adding a new kind of node machine specialized for AI. And then the other thing you mentioned is chain key. So
Chain key, exactly. Yes.
yeah, sometimes it's called chain fusion, but the technical name is chain key cryptography. So actually, there's a lot of stuff that's been inspired by internet computer chain key. People often don't realize that many things you see in Web3 generally are sort of like inspired by, at some point, internet computer technology. So I think Near Protocol had a thing called chain abstraction. And that's kind of inspired by chain key. It's a bit different with near. They have something more akin to a bridge, and they're managing these keys. But Internet Computer as a blockchain to which nodes come and go maintains public key pairs. That can be Schnorr for Solana or ECDSA for Bitcoin or whatever's required. And of course, while there's a public key, there's no private key, because if you stored a private key on the network, it's, one of the node providers would steal the private key and steal all the crypto, right? What's happening behind the scenes is that the node machines and subnets are cooperating in such a way that if a certain number of them agree to sign for a public key, then the signature is produced. And they all individually have something called private key shares. And this is actually some of the most exciting and magical crypto, I think, in the world today. The Internet Computer uses something called a non-interactive DKG. So when it spins up a subnet, all of these nodes can sort of initialize their private key shares in a single shot without having to share them, which is why it's called non-interactive distributed key generation protocol. And then actually, obviously, there'll be the fear that what's known as an adaptive adversary would somehow bribe or piecemeal, bit by bit, compromise the node machines and accumulate the private key material. But in actual fact, the private key material or private key shares, because it's right, is regenerated continuously, and using something called a key resharing protocol. So that means the only way of stealing enough private key material to be able to sign for these public keys that the network maintains is you have to snapshot the nodes, which is obviously very, very difficult. You have to snapshot the nodes at a point in time. So anyway, that's how the network maintains these keys, and it means that the software resident, the smart contract software resident on the network, can actually, create and maintain key pairs. Except there is no, the reason it's called chain key is instead of a private key, you've got the blockchain itself. But if a smart contract wants to sign for a public key that it maintains, it'll do it, right? Because smart contracts are tamper-proof. So this has been used, in fact, to sort of reinvent recently what crypto wallets look like. So if listeners want to try, they should go to oisy.com. Gosh, is it oisy.com? I think it's oisy.com, OISY.com. If anyone's interested, it's like Open Internet Service-y or something like that. That's where it came from. But Oisy.
I remember we used it last time.
Yeah.
Basically, so in 5 seconds, you were able to send me some ETH.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. So that the work has continued with that, and I think it now does all kinds of other cool things. I think it works with Solana, and the cool thing with Oisy is you're just authenticating to your wallet account on the blockchain, and it's the smart contracts that are holding all your crypto on your behalf, and you just authenticate using passkey technology, which of course is the modern way of doing things and much more secure than putting a private key in a browser extension or something like that. I mean, you probably heard there's a new kind of virus out there that steals private keys from browser extension wallets like Phantom and MetaMask and things like that. So if you get this, if you get this virus on your laptop, unfortunately, it's going to steal your private key from Phantom or private keys from Phantom or MetaMask. But with Oisy, of course, there is no private key to steal. The crypto is maintained for you by that smart contract that creates the Oisy wallet, and you just authenticate to that using passkey technology. And passkey technology is more secure because it integrates with secure hardware on your device. So there is a kind of private key. It's not being used to sign transactions for your wallet, but it's being used to authenticate each of the wallet. But those private keys involved in internet identity are actually stored in secure hardware on your device, and they're called TEE, Trusted Execution Environment. And even if you open up the device, you can't get these private keys out of the chip. So your session is signed inside this thing. And so, yeah, it provides you with a much higher level of security in practice. And so that's an example of what you can do at Chainkey. But, the technology gets better and better all the time. The internet computer talks directly to currently to Bitcoin and directly to Ethereum and Solana. It was very difficult to get it working for Ethereum and Solana because actually, there aren't that many nodes that provide endpoints we can talk to because, we need to be able to speak to lots of different nodes to make sure, they haven't been, not talking to a hack node. But yeah, we got it working. And the vision is that, at the moment, you can create any transaction you like inside your internet computer code, but eventually we're going to get to the stage where you'll be able to call into a smart contract on these chains in a very abstract way from your internet computer smart contract code, and that's how we get to this our vision of a world computer, which is the amalgamation of all blockchains that host code and data.
Sounds very technical. So well done for building all of this.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of work. It took us years. I mean, this is the thing with
2021, you guys launched.
I think we launched. Well, I mean, the foundation was created in 2016. So I
Right.
first started talking about DFINITY in 2015. You can go on the Wayback Machine and look at DFINITY.io on the Wayback Machine, and you'll see that there's a website that popped up in 2015 talking about blockchains that could scale to host things like Google Search and Gmail. Then the foundation was created in October 2016, after we'd begun working on it that year. Then there was, like an ICO February 2017, and that raised additional funds that enabled us to start really scaling our R&D. Took until May 21 to launch the network. And then I think it was June, July 21 that I announced Chainkey, and I said, look, the internet computer is going to be able to natively interoperate with Ethereum. I think was in the end, it was Bitcoin we first added, but Ethereum came second. But it was so Chainkey was kind of announced like summer 21. We sort of got it working, more than a year ago, but it's taken a while to really kind of settle it and make it easy to use, and that's why you're now seeing things like Oisy really beginning to make big leaps.
So to conclude, you've been now in this crypto space a long time. Has it developed as you always hoped it would? And with the current environment, are you confident in the next 5-10 years?
I think it has to be changed by force. I think AI is the force that will change crypto. Look, crypto is always about big ideas. I was inspired by Satoshi and his big ideas. And that's all we've ever worked on at DFINITY, the big ideas like, real world computer that can become the world's decentralized IT stack of the future. And I think the forcing function is going to be AI. We, of course, like things like NFTs and meme coins have their place and they're cool things. But crypto is, bigger than that. Crypto needs to do big things. And I think AI is going to be the forcing function. Once the self-writing internet really kicks off,
Yeah, for sure.
The growth is going to be so huge. I mean, look, there's a prediction market somewhere that says that the internet computer will have more devs than any other network, I think. I'm sure that's true by the end of the year, and I'll tell you why. Because
By the end of the year. So
oh yeah, easily, and it's probably gonna have more devs. Internet computer will have more devs by the end of the year. Well, not more. Internet computer will have multiples, huge multiples of the total number of devs working on every other chain by the end of this year. And that's simply because with the self-writing internet, I mean, you've got like 5 billion smartphone owners who are suddenly going to get this superpower. Retail are going to be able to create any online functionality they want. Like businesses are going to be able to become more agile and do things at lower cost. Entrepreneurs are going to be able to create stuff without funding and realize their dreams. Engineers are going to be able to turn themselves into a team by partnering with this kind of AI that's building on
AI.
blockchain. It's going to be a total game changer. And I think that's the forcing function. AI, honestly, is probably a more powerful force than crypto right now, given where the industry's kind of ended up,
For sure.
focusing on speculation and tribalism and so on. So I think AI is going to clean room. It's going to completely change how we think about what Web3 is. And it's going to be about much more than tokens. It's going to be about utility. And that's what's coming, and it's coming soon.
That's super interesting. And if self-writing is coming out, or it's already there to sort of
Yeah.
play with?
So we already got it working, obviously. I mean, the caffeine's been around internally for a while. I've got a big team. The challenge for us is like people that like just, release caffeine so everyone can have a play with it.
Yeah.
I think in truth, probably I should do some demos, but we want to make sure that when we release it, it very clearly it demonstrates how Web3 can easily surpass Web2. And, you only get one launch,
True.
and you
True.
can burn eyeballs. Internet computer didn't launch too soon. Like we waited until the internet computer was fantastic before we launched it. But of course we had, this price went to 500 and thanks to some shenanigans on FTX and so on. And that did us, kind of, the project lasted damage that we're only just now beginning to emerge from. So I think, with caffeine, it's coming soon, but we're not going to release it until its advantages are overwhelming and completely obvious. But we're going to get there soon. It's going well.
Good. I look forward to seeing it. Thanks a lot, Dominic. Been a very insightful conversation.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks a lot.